Thank you so much for being here, for choosing to meet yourself in this way. So good to see you all, most feel you. The strength of your presence, the strength of your intention. And we will be diving into an exploration of the sentience of silence. Commune with the herd here. There was silence and no words. And I realized that all of the transmissions that have ever come through with you all in these gatherings are born out of this field of silence. And so today, let's pay close attention to the field of silence that the words are appearing in. The frequencies in the words are carried through a sentience of silence. And we can lean into this part of ourself, which is alive and well, the sentience of silence. And for us to receive the gift of all of nature is giving a gift back. So it doesn't get much better than that. So we lean into all of nature now as the herd here is finishing up their lunch. They'll be gathering over, I'm sure, but we'll call them in, and let's call in now all of nature as one unitive field that is really singing a silent symphony through your being in this very moment. The herd of light, as we call them, Yoshi, Khalil, Travis, Taz, and Teddy, and an unseen spirit being, Omar. And so many unseen beings that are among us in the unseen world that can really only be met through silence. Let's call these beings in now, these beings that live as part of ourselves. I would like to call in our sister Susan. With deep reverence. And all of our beloved sisters and brothers in human disguises who have courageously dissolved their form And through silence, we feel them nearer than near. This includes all of our beloved friends that were disguised as dogs and cats and horses and animal beings who have dissolved their form. Feeling them with a palpable power that can only be touched as like a kiss from silence to silence. And let's call in Mother Gaia, the vastness of her body and all of her children. From the tiniest microorganism and virus to the seed and sprout and tree, to the fruit, the herbs, the flowers, all the sentience that sings through our own hearts, kindling our inner flame of love. And tuning into your own being. It's dimensions that are unseen as well, that can only be glimpsed or met or kissed in silence. And then feeling all of our human brothers and sisters on this ever evolving spiral of awakening sentience. And may this gathering of all of our hearts with all of nature be an offering for all beings. I'm going to use the tone Om, which is an ancient sound. It has a 3-part symphony in it. And after each transmission, I would like to sing out this ancient sound, and you can feel free to do so too. You're all on mute, but we'll all hear you through silence. So if you feel to tone, this 3-part symphony is the arising of manifestation out of silence. The period of its maintenance in the manifested world. And then its dissolution back into silence. So it's a very powerful sound, but you can use any sound because all sound is like that. We will be bathing with Julia soon in a sound bath, a sound healing. We will be listening to transmissions that come through as sound. They're all a 3-part symphony. So let us tune to all of the parts of the symphony. So as we begin to listen now to these words that were born out of silence, and it is an amplified field of silence. I would like to just speak to you of my experience with the herd this morning. As I came out, I could feel my whole body just sinking into a certain coherence of silence. Like we are doing and being here now. And the herd was all around, amplifying that coherence of silence. There's one horse in the herd that is really the embodiment of silence. This is the horse that our dear sister Susan Hound had the deepest resonance with. And he always showed up when she was here talking on the screen. And he's always hiding, usually hiding, not hiding, but being invisible, except for those who can see. And sometimes he steps forward, and it's always with intention. And he's the embodiment of the sentience of silence. He stands alone from the herd 80% of the time. In complete peace. And I had been surrounded by Yoshi, who's usually right here, as many of you know. And so it was interesting because as I was all of a sudden beginning to tune into words, to bring transmissions through into words, which felt pretty impossible, like an oxymoron, to speak about silence. This horse being came and nuzzled my hand, and I thought, oh, it's Yoshi. So I kind of took it for granted a little bit, acknowledging, but still a little bit. And then I looked and it was Travis. And I put everything down, my pen, the paper, everything down, and just felt with him as his nose breathed into my hand. And this is what came through. Having a complex brain does not equate to sentience. How awake silence is within. If there is a measurement to the immeasurable, this is an immeasurable measurement of sentience. Having a complex brain does not equate to sentience. How awake silence is within. If there is a measurement to the immeasurable, this is an immeasurable measurement of sentience. How awake silence is within. Feel these words as Travis shows up again. To meet every frequency from the portal of silence is to allow sentience to give birth fully. To meet every frequency from the portal of silence is to allow sentience to give birth fully. Fully potentiated birth. Giving birth through releasing. Giving birth through death. Giving birth through breath. Rebirthing again and again. From silence awakened to itself. Meeting each frequency from the sentience of silence. In the sentience of silence, like Divine Mother, holding all. The sentience of silence, like Divine Mother, to all her children, she whispers, I see you, darling. No complexity of brain activity. Complete, luminous, awake sentience, cradling all. Having a complex brain does not equate to sentience. How awake silence is within to the immeasurable. This is the immeasurable measurement of sentience. To meet every frequency from the portal of silence is to allow sentience to give birth, fully potentiated births, giving birth through releasing, giving birth through death, giving birth through breath, again and again rebirthing. From silence awakened to itself. Meeting each frequency from the sentience of silence, holding all, like Divine Mother holds her children. Meeting each frequency from the sentience of silence, like Divine Mother whispering, I see you, darling. No complexity of brain activity. Luminous, awake, sentience cradling all. Do not pressure your mind to rest in silence. There are subtle centers that know the sentience of silence intimately as themselves. Rest there. Do not put pressure on your mind to rest in silence. There are subtle centers that know the sentience of silence intimately as themselves. Rest there. At the top of your head, where the crown meets the cosmos. At the center of your heart, where your individuality meets all. In the pit of your gut, where there is a limitless well of embodied sentience. From the empty, unfurled, butterfly-shaped emptiness in the center of your forehead. Rest there, and your mind will follow. Just like a bee to the center of the most fragrant flower. No pressure needed. Do not put pressure on your mind to rest in silence. There are subtle centers that know the sentience of silence intimately as themselves. Rest there at the top of your head where the crown meets the cosmos. The center of your heart where individuality meets all. The pit of your stomach, of your gut, where there is a limitless well of embodied sentience. The empty, unfurled, butterfly-shaped emptiness in the center of your forehead. Rest there, and your mind will follow like a bee to the center of the most fragrant flower. No pressure needed. To return from incoherence. Back to your true nature of coherence. All parts of you singing in harmony, to return to your true nature of harmony, of coherence. Simply tune to the silence within. Silence is underrated in its power. It's alchemy to welcome everything and to restore coherence simply by your kiss, simply by your bowing deeper into it, nostril to nostril, breathing silence, restoring coherence from within. To return from incoherence back to your true nature of coherence, where all parts of your being sing in harmony. to return to this true nature of coherence. Simply tune to silence within. Silence is underrated in its power, its alchemy to welcome everything and to restore coherence simply by your kiss, your bow deeper into it, your nostril to nostril breath. Silence, restoring coherence from within. Nature is silence. Silence is the alive emptiness, that vibrations of sound and color and thought and texture, where all vibrations flow from, dance in, and create from. Nature speaks in silence, and from there, vibrations ripple out, passing through, and always returning to the sentience of silence. Yes, silence speaks. Cultivate your antenna tuned to silence. Every sound you hear, in nature has a natural three-part harmony. A symphony of sentience. It's arising out of silence. It's sustained, temporary appearance. And its dissolution. Tune equally to all parts of the symphony. Tune equally to all parts of the symphony within. There's one thing that nature beings never say no to. One thing that nature beings never say no to. Never say no to silence. Just feel the power of that non-resistance, absence of resistance. There's no propensity to resist silence. The reason that you run away from silence and even entrain others to is because somewhere your wires got crossed and you started to equate silence with death. Walk into nature. Nature is silence. The dominant frequency of nature is silence. The dominant frequency. The whole surroundings are vastly alive and predominantly silent. And this is who you are. Even when your form dissolves. But hopefully before that, you can touch and bathe in who you are. To your ego, silence is death. Well, let it die. As with any form, whether a belief or pattern of systems or a thought form. When it dies, energy is released. Cosmic fibers of life are born. With every seeming death, in every breath. So die before you die into silence. Nature, including your true nature, never says no to silence. Nature, including your true nature, never says no to silence. We do not have the thought-driven fear of silence that is contagiously generated in your collective. Have you ever fallen deeply into a pause, bathing in silence, only to have another human ask you what is wrong? In all your moving away from silence to prove that there is nothing wrong, you actually move further away from the inner well of all is wellness. The backdrop of everything is silence, is naked mind, is no thingness. If you fully say yes to this, oh, the portal of your resounding yes to this, to the silence is everything. So feeling and bathing and restoring. In the sentient seed of silence. And meeting yourself so deeply that you meet all. Let's bathe now in a sound bath from our beloved Sister Julia Pearson. Thank you, Julia. And thank you all here, listening, sing. I'm feeling how restored we are by this communal bathing.